Welcome to another episode of Relics Radio. I am your host, Digging with Seven. I'm especially excited tonight because I've got two very special guests from my home state of Texas. I've got the Booty Hunters, Carrie Snell and Stephanie Davenport. Welcome to the show, guys.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And disclaimer, whenever I said the Booty Hunters, they're after that pirate booties, what these guys are after. Carrie, I guess I'll start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into metal detecting?
What got me into metal detecting was Stephanie, actually. But I had an interest in all things old since I was a child. And I was born in Arizona, and my dad was a pretty prolific antique dealer out there, and back in the 70s and 80s, he would take us out to those old ghost towns that were still existing when I was a kid. And probably some of your listeners probably know this one, but there was an old place called the Silver King, and it was out in Superior, Arizona. And in the 70s and the early 80s, that place was still standing. So as a kid, I can honestly say I got to walk through what looks like an Old West ghost town.
Wow.
And had the old Paymaster Shack at the end of this. It was just one straight road with all the buildings on the side. And it makes a big impression as a little kid. They still had the little bitty school, and they had caved in, and it looked like the one that they reproduced on that old TV show.
Little House on the Prairie. Yeah.
Yeah, that old school looked like that school, but it was collapsed in, so I got to see that as a kid. And in the 60s, my grandpa and my dad, they went out to the Superstition Mountains.
Right.
So one of the trails you walk into now is made because they drug all the compressors back there with mules, and they were looking for treasure back there. So as a kid, you get all that stuff instilled in you, and that's how you get into metal detecting. You just start in the dirt, right?
Yeah. Always excited about what comes out. Yeah.
Well, unless it's a bottle cap or something. But now, so Carrie and I knew each other in high school, and I got a divorce about 4 years ago, and we ended up hooking up, and we have been running ever since. When I was a kid, of course, you hear all those treasure hunting stories. And so Mom actually had a cousin that worked with the Mexican government and recovered their shipwrecks off the coast. And then Maximilian was president, and he somehow had acquired an old treasure map of a Spanish fort here in Texas, and he had 3 copies made. And he became friends with my great-uncle, and his family was granted 10,000 acres here in Texas. Dad said that it had the fault line, the Volcanus fault on it, so that was a huge amount of property.
Yeah.
And he is out gathering cattle when a storm rolls up. And so he said he found some big cedar trees and huge rock. So as he got right in there, he was able to squeeze through the opening opened up. And he found a conquistador in his full suit. And his horse had died beside him. Was evident that he had gotten in a fight with Indians, so I'm assuming that he found arrows in him. But after he left, he didn't take anything with him. He thought he'd go back and bring his brother back, and they couldn't find it after that. Still there somewhere in a small little cave, still sitting.
Oh, my goodness.
So anyway, Carrie had worked for the sheriff's department for like 23 years, and we were trying to find something to do. I said, what do you think about learning how to metal detect or picking it back up?
Yeah.
And he was like, heck yes, I want to do that. Anyway, so we had inherited that map, and so I didn't even ask Mom for the map. So my butt got in a bunch of trouble when she found out when Dad had the lawyer call, and it's a family attorney that we have, and he was like, do not do anything that I'll have to bail you out of jail for. And of course, Carrie's telling me the whole time, I know what prison's like, Stephanie. I'm not going on anybody's property. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
The quality of your editing, tell me about that. Your philosophy of editing, I guess, is what I'm driving at.
And watched other videos and kind of trying to learn their little niche. And so as I was watching, I would watch it and think, you know what? I see what they're holding up here, but I want to see, like, what did it look like before it was squished and rusted?
Right.
So it bothered me that I couldn't identify. Guys might be able to, but I couldn't identify with what I was seeing. And then I wanted to know what it was used for.
So here I am. I was already making car videos and filming and stuff like that, and I just kind of converted over to metal detecting with her. And so I'm over there editing some shows that we have done, and you spend like 6 hours of editing time, and then she would come in and OCD on it. That's what I say. And she's like, so I'm going to change that, I'm going to change this. And I'm like, hold on, I just spent 6 hours on this, and you're taking me back to 1 hour. So you do that several times, and I'm like, oh my, I don't know, okay, you know what, let me show you how to do it. And then I come back and I look at it, and I said, you know what, that's better than what I was doing. You know what, you're doing a great job. And so everything that you see, all this editing, and her skills that she used with her dad.
When I was growing up working for Dad, he manufactured Sheffield wire. And then he moved me upstairs, and I learned desktop publishing so I could do some of the magazines and stuff.
Right.
So that kind of was the background.
Well,
yeah, she incorporated it into her editing process. And so the format you see, all the editing,
yeah,
all of it's hers. She does all of that.
And, I don't know. There's just something, and I'm going to challenge everybody in the chat, everybody that's listening, is to go to the Booty Hunters on YouTube and watch their videos and subscribe to them and help them out with that. You are going to be pleasantly surprised because you live in a part of the country, and me and Carrie talked about this the other day a little bit. You live in a part of the country that doesn't have the amount of history. Now, I know that there's history there, and there's old history there, but it's very spotty to find really, really old stuff. So you're limited on what you can find, and so your appeal has to be the way you present what you find. Am I wrong?
Thank you. No, you're
definitely right. We're dealing with like 300 acres.
Yeah.
Tell them how we narrowed down.
The plan was, so you got all the shipwreck claims out there, so you can't really go into the water.
No, you can't.
If there's a shipwreck claim, you can't walk into the water with your metal detector.
Right.
So if you're looking on a map, because we're trying to figure out where we can legally do this, we noticed that everywhere there's a shipwreck out there in the ocean.
You're talking about treasure shipwreck.
They make a national park or a bird reserve, and I think those are all designed to keep metal detectors out of there. So they pull permits to do construction. So if you could find some sort of construction site that's along the beach's edge, they've all dug in right up to the no-dig line. But they've thrown all the tailings back out on the beach. So let's go through the tailings. And, of course, then you have to find stuff. And so we have to shoot B-roll footage, like pretty footage is what we call it.
Right.
And, it's a lot of work.
I'll tell you what, 15-minute segments go by really quick. It's the Booty Hunters Metal Detecting on YouTube, and you can go in and check that out. And as most of you know, I produce the American Digger Relic Roundup show on Monday night with Butch Holcomb and with Jeff Lubert. That's at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And also FeedSpot put out their top 10 treasure hunting podcast you must follow in 2020, and Relic Roundup was number 3 in that top 10, so that was great. Something else that I wanted to bring up, and that is that you guys get into some scary situations every once in a while. I know that at one place that there was a snake that almost came out on y'all, didn't it?
Yes. I hate snakes.
What are you doing back there?
I'm trying to get this bottle. Well, it was right next to my leg.
Okay, it wasn't right next to your leg.
Oh, we'll review the tape.
I the picture.
Yeah,
So,
placed by Copperhead.
when he was little, and it licked his forehead. So
Messed my head up ever since.
So that's the problem. Now we get the rest of the story out.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you had one video, and the way that it came into it, it was you went into a barn, I think it was, but it was dark where you were going in, and the viewer really can't tell what's going on, and there's this rah, 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 and I thought, what in the world, is that? And tell them what it was, what you ran up on.
In this so this place is a pretty big. I think there's 500 or 600 acres on this place, and it was a really old barn. And we opened up the door, and there wasn't just one in there. There was 3 of them in there.
So it's not all snakes and poison ivy out here. What we have in here, that's a whole new breed of animal. So let's go take a look at that. You ready for this?
I don't know. Oh! Close the door!
Oh, shit! Come back here!
Get the light. Holy cow. Oh my goodness. I wish y'all could have seen that.
Crazy.
Oh my God. Did not go as planned.
it was hilarious. It was so much funnier than I could even put together on the video. That it was just. I think I peed a little too. It was that funny. So, is that too much on the radio? Right?
Oh no, that's fine.
No, it was something else.
It really was.
Have you seen the Hollywood Hideout?
No, I hadn't seen it. No.
Good. Okay, so I know your viewers. I don't know where they're from, all over the world. So we have what's called Possum Kingdom here, a lake.
Hey, I've fished at Possum Kingdom before with my dad. Yeah,
there you go.
We used to go there quite a bit.
Jimmy Stewart, he liked it so much that they allowed him to build a house. But we got to go through his house. He made a kind of a resort for their friends. And they had monkeys, they had elephants, they had zebras, and they all kept it. It was like this private little end across from Sandy Beach, if anybody knows where that is. And they said you could hear those elephants all throughout the area. But I won't tell you everything because we go into details. And
so that's part of the format is find some history and incorporate it into the dig and make it interesting because, as you said before, Texas is so huge and everything is so far and few between, we got to film what's under our feet.
Right.
We find what we find.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job of that. I mean, blending everything that you blend in with it, and camera angles, and just the things that you do. You need to change scenes every so many seconds to keep interest. I mean, there's a whole philosophy about editing and everything, and you guys are really, really doing a good job. And I know
thank you.
I know that people, whenever when they come and watch your videos, are going to agree with that. Even though you're not finding Spanish gold and Maximilian's mine and all that stuff,
right.
or his treasure. One day
we will.
One day you may do it. Yes. Out of all of the, and I know Texas, I know that you guys hunt some really isolated and really out of the way spots. Have you guys ever had any paranormal experiences while you were hunting?
Yes.
Is that funny?
Well, tell us about it.
Go.
That's straight up, yes, sir. The first time that we ran into something was at Fort McCavick. And we were out there filming, and it was one of our...
Oh, I forgot about that.
We don't film this, though, but I do remember she was in there. I'm shooting some B-roll footage of filler material for the show, and she was inside one of those old buildings, and I think it was a post office maybe, and she heard someone walking around in there, and there's nobody in there. There wasn't anybody at the fort except us, and so they invited us in there and took us all over. She's wandering around this building by herself. There's someone walking around in there, and when I went in there, She asked, were you? I wasn't in there. I kept telling her, no, I was not here. Something was picking up pebbles off the floor and throwing them in this old building from one side of the room
and I could
to
hear
the
them
other.
talking, too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
That was pretty freaky. But now, here's the other one.
Wait, Terry. I walked in the bathroom, and I thought, oh, the AC was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And the stall door opened. It just opened up, and this cool breeze hit me. And I was like, oh, it gave me chills. So then I walked out, and we don't have AC in the bathroom. I don't know that.
I got cold for some reason.
So it's like a year later, we go out to this property, and we're building a rock bridge out in front of our house, and so we needed these rocks, green mold on them and stuff like that, neat texture. And so we got invited out to this piece of property way out in the middle of nowhere to go dig. And it's like 105 degrees, and there's no wind blowing whatsoever. And we pull in there with the Raptor and the trailer. We're just going there to dig these rocks up. The big giant barn doors on this old barn, they're just fully opening and fully closing.
Slamming.
Fully opening and fully closing. And then I remember Stephanie said, hey, the wind's not blowing.
I thought, I'm not going to walk inside. I'm feeling something weird. So I closed the door, and I took this metal bar that was on the ground. And so I put that metal bar in there where I thought that it was really sturdy in between the two locks, and I turned around and walked off. And I'm looking at Gary, and I got halfway back.
Yeah, now while she's walking away, I saw that big metal bar get pulled out of there, fall on the ground, and then the doors go to open and closing. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not going to tell her that happened. And so
I could hear it.
We head up into the woods. It's pretty creepy. We're going in there to dig rock. And I saw 4 dudes in white standing there just looking at us. Now, she didn't see them, but I could see them as plain as day. And I said, there's a dude looking at me from there, there, and there. And so it just gives me the creeps just thinking about it right now. But I said, hey, come here a minute.
Well, I knew he was scared because he said, we got to go. We can't stay here. They're just looking at me.
Well, and so, but we needed this rock. So you know what we did? We said a prayer to the Lord right there. And then immediately the whole air cleared and everything was good. And so we finished our rock project, dug up all the rock. And then months and months later, we get invited to that property to go metal detecting. You got to tell them what happened to the metal detector. So you want me to say that?
The landowner wanted to show us up top where I felt like it opened up to where it was a round area, like a seance area. So he wanted to show us up there. White. So we're up there, and we're looking around. As we're coming down, right where Terry saw those men, the metal detector started messing up, and it started, like, and we had brand new batteries in it. It just cut off, and we have not been able to make it work since. So we're going to have to take it into Garrett and say, I think some paranormal stuff has affected the metal detector.
Yeah, so, that is so weird because that metal detector
I don't think it was Gary.
Worked perfectly. Yeah, there was another show that something like that happened on, and they hit on that.
Somebody had run into something, and it affected their metal detector and their cameras. So they said the same thing. So it validated what we were going through for us. Okay, everything is still in the works, but we have discovered what appears to be...
Hold on, before you do that, I'm going to open up the phone lines. The Booty Hunters metal detecting. Okay, go ahead, Stephanie.
We haven't actually told it yet because we were waiting on all the scientific evidence to come in. So this guy, he works for my dad, and he's worked for him for about 20 years. So he's like his left-hand man. And so he said, Stephanie, you go out there anytime you want to. Land might have something buried on it because it could be that there was a lot of drugs going on that he got put in jail. And already knowing, and I said, maybe that's what those guys were about. It was so creepy when we were there. I had a feeling that it was like, some satanic stuff that had gone on when I went up there in the rock. Anyway, so I went back there and I said, okay, I'm going to go in the barn. That scared me the first time. So I walked in the barn without Carrie knowing. And I started saying, if you can hear me, you've already passed away and you're no longer here. So if you've buried something on the property, I could really use it. Our show could use it. The man that owns this property has a bunch of kids. We all could benefit from it, but I don't want anything negative coming home with us, because we've had that happen before.
I got
said,
cold.
yeah, we know that.
I got cold for some reason.
And I wrapped it up that way, and I turned around and walked out, and Kerry passes me, and he's going to the barn, and I didn't say anything to him. I went and grabbed my metal detector. I hear him yelling at me, "Look at this rock I found." So he comes running up to me, and he shows me this cool rock that he found, and I put it in his backpack, and so we're arguing about where they would bury it on the property. Carrie's saying, I would bury it in the field where I could see it, and I said, I would bury it close to the dog pen, and it's got all these odd dog pens that were along this fence line. I set the metal detector down. The first swing I did, we get a hit. Carrie puts the shovel in the dirt, and up comes the size of the palm of our hand rock. It looks like jade. And it came a flood. And we sat there for 3 hours, and it was all together. It was only a foot deep. You want to tell Carrie? You want me to announce it?
I can say it.
Do it.
Okay, I think this is impactite, which is glass that's formed after a meteorite hit. And so if it hits different types of soils, they might call it moldavite, which might be a different soil type. The Libyan glass, it was created by a meteor strike. And in our case, it's completely unusual because it appears a meteorite hit a solid bedrock of quartz and turned it into an impactite. And I remember when she first had laid that metal detector down, it did make a beep. And I remember when we were digging all this rock of them, your head's swirling and you're trying to figure out what it is. And I remember picking up this heavy, weighty thing. I run out to the trailer, and I dig in the box, and I find that alleged meteorite. It has quartz embedded in it. And so in order to melt that, it would be like a 4,800 degrees. So it was a huge event.
So we ended up taking it to TCU, and he said, if it's what you guys are saying it is, nothing like that has ever been found. So there's nothing to compare it to. So we were like, what do we do? And he said, you're going to have to find an impact crater specialist.
So somebody buried it in that hole. I found what appears to be 2 brand new impact sites, but I have to prove it.
Yeah. You guys are going to do a show on this as you kind of weed out and get all your research and everything done, correct?
Yeah.
Tim Henderson, what's going on tonight, Tim?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Going good.
Hello, Tim.
Hey, Theo.
Interesting stories. Hey, so those little rocks you found on the drug dealer's property, did y'all try putting a piece of it in a pipe and seeing if you could smoke it?
Well, that's the first thing we thought.
Yes.
You guys know I'm a dealer. I was looking at the fine print on Garrett's warranty program, and I think it says in there that they do not warranty against paranormal abuse.
It doesn't really?
So,
that's funny.
Well, I'm sure they've heard it all, so you just call up Rusty and tell them some ghost tore up your detector.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite shows, we ended up finding a badge, and I loved how that part came together.
Oh, it's a...
With a bullet hole. What is that? A little
I know what
Marshall.
it is. Look, I shot the sheriff.
I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy.
Guys, it's been a real blast. We're out of time here tonight.
Nice talking to you, Tim.
Thanks for the good show.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, Tim. Thank you.
And you guys hang on the line because we'll say our goodbyes afterwards. But you've been great guests. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thank you.
Real interesting show. Before we close the show, where can we go to see the Booty Hunters metal detecting?
On YouTube, you can look us up by the Booty Hunters metal detecting.
Right.
You got to put the metal detecting in there. Your wife may say, "What the heck are you looking up there, boy?"
I seen somebody in the chat say, "Don't Google the Booty Hunters."
I love it.
Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thank you.
Thank
real
you.
interesting show. Yeah, you did a great job.